Imagine a packed arena with lights blazing and thousands of screaming fans. A rookie without a name stepped into the ring against a top-ranked hunter. Before the crowd could even settle into their seats, the rookie threw one single punch. One single punch made the champion fold like wet paper. The crowd went completely and deathly silent. Another fighter stepped up, but the result remained the same. One punch finished the fight in an instant. This happened again and again as the day continued. Commentators lost their minds while trying to identify this unknown kid. On paper, the fighter was a nobody who should not even be in this league. However, here he was, dropping highest tier talent like he was swatting flies. The whole world was about to find out the truth about this unknown man. This rookie spent 10,000 years in hell learning how to punch. 10,000 years is a massive amount of time, longer than human history. That was not even the wildest part of the story. Nobody knew the moment that was coming very soon. A cosmic god-tier villain looked him dead in the eye and dropped a devastating line. The villain told him that his entire journey was a mistake. Every monster he killed and every century he labored was merely an accident. The villain claimed the goddess never actually chose him. You could see the exact second the world of our protagonist cracked. There was another moment where he walked back onto Earth, expecting a hero's welcome. Instead, he found out he was 30 years late to the world. 30 years is a length of time that changed everything he knew. The war he was supposed to stop already happened. The people he was supposed to save were either dead or old. His entire life mission ended before he even returned. Later, he showed up at a fancy dinner where a billionaire tried to buy him. The billionaire treated the powerful fighter like he was a dog. Choi just smiled at the man and played along. The fighter walked out with everything he wanted from the meeting. He left the richest man in the United States, looking like a clown. This story also featured a giant sea dragon and a 9-headed hydra. He even trained with a massive stone snake buddy. He trained by punching the snake for 100 years. This story is truly stacked with action and adventure. Let us rewind to the beginning of the journey. We must go back to the time before the hell and the constellation titles. Let us meet the kid who started this whole mess. The name of the young man was Choi. Choi was an orphan with no family or friends. He had no distractions in his daily life. He had only one obsession, which was getting stronger. Choi was a C-rank hunter in a world where hunters were celebrities. In this world, dungeons appeared out of nowhere and monsters spilled into reality. Only strong hunters could stand between humanity and extinction. Choi was not that guy at the start. He was low-ranked, underpaid, and stuck training in an old martial art. Nobody respected his chosen style anymore. It was called the Divine Celestial Technique. The name sounded impressive, but the technique was painfully slow. The training style was incredibly and painfully slow for any student. A person could grind for a decade and only go up half a rank. Everyone told Choi to drop the style. His clan leader was an S-rank man named Huang. Huang warned him that this obsession would get him killed. His girlfriend already dumped him because he cared more about training. Choi did not even blink at these personal setbacks. He just kept punching the training dummy every day. He kept drilling the same forms for many hours. To him, strength was not just a simple hobby. It was the only thing in this world he could actually trust. One night, he fell asleep and a goddess showed up in his dream. This was not a metaphor for his life. She was a literal goddess who was beautiful and glowing. She called herself the goddess of balance and said she was watching him. She picked Choi to be her chosen champion. She wanted to make a contract and bind his soul to hers. Most people would ask many questions about the catch or their soul. Choi had exactly one question for her. He asked if the contract would make him stronger. The goddess said yes, and the deal was made. Choi signed the contract and the deal was done. The entire process took only about 4 seconds. The goddess was a little thrown off by how fast he agreed. She had a much bigger problem to explain to him. She told him about a prophecy involving evil constellations. These were cosmic beings tied to various dark domains. They were planning to invade Earth by sending their servants through portals. They wanted to break the world into pieces. One specific human was destined to be the pivot point. This person would either save Earth or watch it burn. According to the goddess, that human was Choi. She needed to get this C-rank orphan ready for battle. She planned to send him to a special abyss training ground. This was a safe pocket dimension designed to accelerate his growth. When he was strong enough, he would come back as the shield. Choi simply nodded his head in total agreement. He did not cry or panic at the news. He went home and wrote a short goodbye letter to Huang. Then he walked into the portal the goddess opened for him. This was where fate gave him a difficult time. The second he stepped through, a massive mana storm hit. This biblical and cosmic scale storm ripped through the portal path. It slingshot the fighter off his original course. The goddess lost her grip on the young man. She screamed his name across dimensions. She sent her angel, Adekanyo, to find him. However, Choi was completely gone from the known world. He did not land in the nice safe training garden she promised. Instead, he landed in an ungoverned zone of the infinite abyss. This place was lawless and full of monsters that eat gods. The sky itself tried to kill anything in this zone. The incredible thing was that Choi did not know he was lost. He looked around at this hellscape and felt the storm. Lightning, the size of skyscrapers, cooked the ground. Choi assumed this was all part of the training. He genuinely thought the goddess set this up on purpose. He thought the killer storm was a workout for him. The plan worked better than he could imagine. Instead of panicking, he sat down in the middle of the apocalypse. He started absorbing the mana and meditating. He turned the storm into fuel for his body. His body drank the chaos in greedily. His technique moved up a level very quickly. He stood up stronger than he had ever been. He cracked his knuckles and looked for the next training exercise. The members of the audience know the truth. The fighter was stranded in a very dangerous place. This place was designed to kill constellations. Choi was still just a C-rank hunter at that time. This insane blind spot carried him through 10,000 years of hell. The first trainer he met was a mountain-sized stone snake called Onyx. Imagine a rock snake with scales harder than diamond. Onyx decided the tiny human was a snack and lunged. Choi punched the snake in the face. His fist basically broke during the impact. Onyx laughed at the attempt made by the human. Then Choi decided he simply needed to punch harder. Instead of leaving, he stayed at that location. He punched the snake every single day for years. His knuckles shattered and healed many times. Eventually, his bones were forged into something else entirely. Around year 40 of daily face punching, one of the scales on Onyx cracked. The giant stone snake became very curious. In the abyss, respect is earned only one way. Choi earned it by refusing to quit for 40 years straight. Onyx did something unexpected and let Choi ride him. The snake offered his back like a cosmic taxi. Choi treated this like the next stage of his workout. For the next 100 years, he surfed storms on the snake. He rode lightning currents across dimensions. He learned to move with a body the size of a mountain. He unlocked a new martial art called stone martial arts. Choi thought about the name and decided it was best. This man had 10,000 years of experience, but no brand strategy. By the time they parted ways, Choi and Onyx were actual friends. The final goodbye hurt both of the new friends. Onyx nudged him with his massive stone head. Choi patted his snout and went deeper into the abyss. You can feel the loneliness starting to settle in. This was the first crack in his armor. He was sad about leaving a rock snake behind. That is the kind of person Choi is. His next stop was the deadly poison sea. This was an entire ocean of deadly poison. One drop of this liquid could kill a god. Fish in this sea sweat toxins, strong enough to melt cities. Choi decided this must be the endurance phase. He waded in and started eating the fish raw. The poison ripped through his organs and killed him 6 times. Each time, his freaky new body simply adapted and rebuilt. He came back tougher than before. He spent many centuries in that dark place. He chewed through poisonous monsters like they were an unlimited buffet. By the time he walked out, he was immune to poison. He could even weaponize the toxins. He could breathe it out or punch it into people. His fists were now instruments of biochemical warfare. Choi also kept a few scales from Onyx as a souvenir. These scales were harder than any material in the multiverse. While he was poisoning himself, he started a side project. He forged kitchen utensils like pans and ladles. He even made a little cutting board. He wanted to eat well while in the abyss. This became a running joke for the rest of the story. He was a cosmic tier warrior with an adamantium spatula. He climbed out of the poison sea and kept walking. Now the abyss changed and the air got heavier. The monsters got much meaner in this area. He wandered into the territory of the dominator of blood and war. This was a place where the sky bled. The ground remembered every death that occurred there. Most people would turn around immediately. Choi found an abandoned building and moved in. He named his new home the Demon Inn. He set up house in the backyard of a war god. The Demon Inn became his personal dojo. He fought every monster that wandered past his home. He invented new techniques out of pure boredom. One time, he was attacked while sitting in a chair. He refused to get up and fought while sitting. He won the entire battle while remaining seated. Then he created an entire martial arts style around the chair. He named the powerful technique the chair fist style. This grown man invented a fighting style because he did not want to stand up. The technique was genuinely terrifying for his enemies. Chair fist became one of his signature moves. Constellations across the cosmos will flinch when he pulls up a stool. Centuries rolled by inside the Demon Inn. He forged what the source called a heavenly martial body. This was the endgame of his cultivation path. His flesh, bones, muscles, and Dancian, all upgraded to something borderline divine. He unlocked a power called resonance from the world. This meant the universe itself started humming whenever he fought. The skills stacked up like a shopping list. He gained full counter, an invulnerable body. He achieved 3 flowers. Convergence and phantom footwork appeared. He was no longer a simple hunter. He was the kind of person monsters feared. The dominator of blood and war noticed a newcomer in his neighborhood. Viragos arrived at the Demon Inn like a police officer with backup. Viragos was a relative of the dominator himself. He possessed a cosmic pedigree and absurd power. He was not there to fight at first. Viragos was there to recruit the human. Every major constellation in the abyss had been watching him. The Blood God crew wanted him on their team. Viragos made his pitch to the human. He invited the warrior to join them and become a titan. This offer included endless power and respect. Choi refused the offer immediately. He did not hesitate or seem tempted by the offer. He stated that he already served a goddess. He was simply finishing her training program and heading home. Viragos responded with a smile. He knew something that Choi did not. This moment redefined the entire story. Viragos looked at him casually and shared the truth. He told Choi that no constellation ever actually claimed him. No one in the cosmic gallery had his soul on file. There was no bond or divine mark. No paperwork existed to prove he was chosen. This meant his goddess either lied or lost him long ago. The entire 10,000 years of suffering had been an accident. The poison and the storms were just a cosmic clerical error. He was not a chosen champion. He was just a random person the universe forgot about. Choi's face changed for the first time in millennia. The unshakable warrior looked lost. He wondered about the purpose of his journey. The audience felt the weight of his struggle. All that effort seemed to be for nothing. This emotional blow hit him very hard. However, Choi was not the kind of person to give up. He processed his crisis by throwing a punch. He decided that Viragos was going to die. This death would be slow and painful. They fought for 6 months. This was half a year of non-stop cosmic warfare inside the ruins. Viragos was stronger and faster than Choi. However, Choi had his own techniques and a deep sense of spite. Spite eventually won the battle. During the fight, Choi awakened a movement art called Phantom Footwork. This skill allowed him to move very fast. He then unlocked Celestial String. This technique allowed him to manipulate reality itself. Viragos started losing ground and became afraid. Choi finished his opponent with the Celestial Fist. A single strike punched through the being of Viragos. Viragos did not just die. He was completely erased. The resulting blast was massive. Every constellation in the cosmos noticed the event. A cosmic livestream broadcast the event to a full audience. Every god tier being in the universe noticed this human. He had destroyed a relative of the Dominator. This victory put him on the map in a big way. A new twist emerged as Viragos was dying. He planted a final idea in Choi's mind. Viragos told him he could become a constellation himself. Then Viragos turned into dust. That poisonous and seductive idea remained. Choi had spent his whole existence trying to get stronger. Now he saw a new path forward. He could become a god-tier being. The fallout from the battle happened quickly. The Dominator of blood and war did not take the news well. He put a massive bounty on the head of Choi. Constellations from every corner of the abyss watched him. However, many of them did not want to fight. They wanted to sponsor him instead. They sent gifts and divine weapons to win his favor. Choi refused almost every offer. He was not for sale. He only accepted one gift from a fire god. This god was called the Cat of Lava and Magma. The gift was raw adamantium. Choi only took it on his own terms. The door of the Demon Inn creaked open soon after. Choi saw a face he never expected to see again. His old friend Onyx had returned. However, Onyx was not alone. Dozens of other stone serpents stood behind him. A 9-headed hydra coiled above them. This monster was large enough to eat mountain ranges. Onyx would not meet the eye of his friend. Something was very wrong. Choi stared as he processed the situation. His oldest friend was flanked by an army and a monster. This was a very dangerous moment. The audience wondered if his friend was a traitor. Choi did not say anything or ask for an explanation. He simply prepared himself to fight. The hydra struck first with all 9 heads. Choi reached for the power that Viragos had mentioned. He used the concept of cosmic authority in the heat of the moment. His fists carried a new kind of strength. He began to fight the hydra. He cut off a head, but it regenerated. He realized he needed a new strategy. He invented a technique that stopped the ability to grow back. The hydra began to shrink in fear. Choi finished the monster and absorbed its essence. He gained a new power called Undying Regeneration. The stone serpents dropped to the ground immediately. They realized that Choi was the real deal. This was not an invasion, but a test. Onyx had been trying to prove the strength of the human. The hydra was simply an audition. Choi had passed the test easily. Every stone serpent swore loyalty to him. Onyx was very proud of his friend. Choi simply patted Onyx on the head. He told the serpent to warn him. Next time Choi finally understood how the system worked. Faith and worship provided power to a being. He now had many followers. The more followers he gained, the stronger he became. He realized that Earth was a massive source of power. 7 billion people lived on his home planet. Every evil constellation also knew this fact. His mission now had a real purpose. He needed to protect his planet from other beings. He needed to get home and get organized. The abyss was not finished with him yet. His reputation spread quickly. He wandered into a domain ruled by a small girl. She was the constellation of dreams and greed. She saw his title as the avatar of training. She declared herself to be his new best friend. She explained how the entire cosmic system functioned. She told him about ranks and soulstones. This was his first real alliance. She also introduced him to the cat of lava and magma. Choi visited a place called the Well of Enlightenment. Most beings tried to empty their minds there. Choi decided to do the opposite. He amplified his desire for strength until it burned. The well responded to his intense hunger. Other constellations were shocked by his actions. No one had ever tried to muscle through the rules. It was a perfect moment for Choi. He continued to ignore the rules of the universe. He picked up more allies during his journey. A cardinal of plague and darkness tried to intimidate him. Choi defeated the cardinal in 4 seconds. The cardinal surrendered and pledged his loyalty. Choi spared him and added him to his followers. He respected those who knew when to kneel. Choi still felt alone despite his growing power. He had many titles and followers. He was still the same orphan who wrote a letter. This quiet loneliness was a real part of his character. The story allowed this emotion to breathe. Then he wandered into a world called Epheus. This world was full of goblins. He was about to meet the Goblin King named Odigan. This was sure to be a significant encounter. Odigan fought for the survival of his people against a monster named Act. The monster was a massive wolf. This was not a cute animal. It was a world-ending beast that resembled a hurricane in the form of fur. Odigan was losing the battle badly. His warriors were dying. His kingdom was only minutes from falling. He stared directly into the slobbering face of death. Suddenly, a random human walked onto the battlefield. He did not say hello. He did not ask about the situation. The human simply walked up to a coffin rear. He punched the beast once. The wolf exploded instantly. The entire creature was gone and turned into dust. Odigan and the goblins stared in shock. Choi looked at the little green people. He apologized for the interruption. The goblins fell to their knees in the dirt. Choi had not ordered them to do this. The goblins watched a god walk in. He swatted their nightmare like a simple mosquito. Odigan declared Choi a divine being on the spot. He immediately started organizing worship. The goblins built temples and offered prayers. This had an immediate effect on the status of Choi. A whole civilization poured faith into him. This tipped him up to a higher tier. Choi was no longer a lonely rookie constellation. He reached a serious middle-tier level. Odigan, the king of the goblins, refused to be left behind. He followed Choi like a devoted knight. Odigan would not take no for an answer. Choi had officially adopted a goblin. The pair wandered out of Epheus. A mana storm suddenly ripped through the area. The storm dumped a random dungeon in their path. A portal glowed in the middle of the road. Choi and Odigan shrugged and walked inside. They believed they had already handled worse things. The scene shifted to Earth, in the Nevada desert. A hunter team from the Gaines Guild was trapped. They were inside an expanding dungeon called the Demon Mirror of Delusion. The mission was supposed to be a C-rank clearance. However, the dungeon kept growing and warping. It was now reaching an A-rank level. There was no way out for the team. A young hunter named Richard Parker was there. He was the son of a very wealthy and terrible billionaire. A starving porter named Clayton was also with them. A handful of others were slowly running out of supplies. They lacked food, water, and hope. The team had been inside for many days. Ghouls were everywhere. The hunters were minutes from dying. Suddenly, reality seemed to pop. A random man in worn clothes stepped out of the void. A green goblin stood next to him. The team of Richard stared at the newcomers. None of this made any sense. They wondered where this man came from. They wondered why a goblin was with him. The man casually cracked his knuckles. He acted as if the horde of ghouls was a mild inconvenience. Choi cleared the ghouls in about 1 minute. He was not even trying. He kicked one ghoul so hard, it turned another into paste. Choi noticed the team was starving. He pulled out his adamantium cookware. He had forged these pots in the poison sea. Choi cooked the freshest ghoul meat available. He seasoned it with a brew from the abyss. Then he handed out bowls to the hungry hunters. Richard cried while he ate the monster stew. Clayton cried even harder. Odigan politely served the portions to everyone. During dinner, Choi chatted with the group. He casually asked them for the current year. Richard had a full mouth, but told Choi the year was 2039. Choi put down his bowl in silence. The last time he was on Earth, the year was 2009. This meant Choi had been gone for 30 Earth years. His goddess told him he would return in time to stop the invasion. According to the math, the invasion already happened. The event took place almost 3 decades ago. Everyone Choi wanted to save had either survived or died without him. His long mission was finally over. The war was won or lost without his help. Choi did not say anything for a long time. He sat in the dungeon with his soup. He stared at nothing. This was worse than the taunts of Viragos. Viragos told Choi the mission was fake. Now, reality told him the mission ended without him. The weight of 10,000 years landed on him. He was still late. Odigan was sweet and loyal. He noticed the sadness of his master. Odigan used the cosmic upgrade to polymorph. He took a human form to walk on Earth. This allowed him to stay beside his god without scaring people. He provided silent support. Choi stood up and cracked his neck. He got back to work immediately. They cleared the dungeon boss and walked into a Nevada sunset. For the first time in 10,000 years, Choi was home. However, his home did not know him. The world did not remember him. Home had moved on. Choi looked up at a sky that had not been his for a long time. He started walking to find a new mission. Earth was oblivious to what had just returned. Choi first went to an information center. He was still covered in dust from the dungeon. His clothes were 3 decades out of fashion. Odigan followed him in human form like a polite bodyguard. Choi sat at a terminal to review 30 years of history. The story showed us what he learned. The invasion did happen in the year 2011. Evil constellations sent our servants through portals. Earth almost fell during the attack. Benevolent constellations rallied the hunters of the world. They beat the invaders back into a fragile armistice. This peace had held for almost 30 years. Choi realized he could work with this situation. He learned that hunters were now like professional athletes. A global league system existed called the United Hunter Championship. There were arenas, sponsorships, and endorsement deals. New technology allowed hunters to fight at full power without dying. This was called the other side of the world. Choi found this very useful. He could build fame in the league. Fame would provide him with faith and power. Choi typed the name of his martial arts school. It was called the Divine Celestial Technique. He spent 10,000 years perfecting this art. He was willing to bet his soul on it. The screen showed a mugshot of a man named Lee Shawan. People also called him Xian Li. He was once the greatest living martial artist. He was the idol of every training student. The word fraud was written under the mugshot in large letters. It turned out the rank of Li Shawan was fake. He had rigged and bought his status. The scandal destroyed the entire discipline. Martial arts as a serious practice was basically dead. Nobody trained in it anymore. Everyone laughed at the technique. The scroll Choi mastered over 10,000 years was now a joke. People considered it a meme for children in the countryside. Choi was a warrior of the abyss and a killer of hydras. He had even slain Viragos. Now, he dropped to his knees. Choi fell to the floor of the information center. A man can survive cosmic betrayal and 30 missing years. However, his beloved art had been disgraced by a conman. Something inside Choi actually broke. Odigan crouched next to him in silence. He waited for his master to recover. When Choi stood up, a new fire burned in his eyes. Choi now had a personal reason to fight. This grudge was small, human, and mean. He planned to drag martial arts back into respectability. He would make the planet fear the discipline again. Li Shawan was going to learn what happens when the real deal appears. But first, Choi needed paperwork. He went to a hunter registration center to be measured. Choi needed a rank to enter the league. The staff used a crystal test on him. It measured mana output, body density, and combat potential. Choi put his hand on the crystal. The crystal did not glow. It exploded into powder on the desk. The staff panicked and brought out a heavy-duty version. The same thing happened again. The device was destroyed. The tester had never seen anything like it. He stammered while calling for supervisors. Choi stood there like he had broken a teacup. He felt embarrassed and apologetic. The result of the test was laughable. Choi received a rank of C++. This was a low, middle-tier rank. It was obviously a mistake or a scheme. Someone in the system was deliberately miscalculating his power. Choi did not push for a change. He just took the card. He wanted people to underestimate him in the league. A shadow fell across him at the counter. A big man in a tailored suit approached. He was a Korean man with an American accent. Choi had not seen this face in 10,000 years. It was Hwang, his old clan leader. People now called him Dragon Hwang. He was no longer a small guild boss. Hwang was an S-rank hunter and very wealthy. Hwang ran a corporate hunter empire in the United States. He stared at Choi as if he were a ghost. The two men went somewhere private to talk. Hwang had grieved for Choi for years. His old student looked exactly the same age as the day he vanished. Choi stood in the office while wearing dungeon dust. Hwang almost cried during the reunion. Hwang explained why he left Korea. After the invasion of 2011, a clan brother was crippled. The government refused to cover the medical treatment of the hero. Huang was disgusted and left the country for good. He built his empire abroad and never went back. Choi filed this information away as another injustice to fix. Huang tried to give a serious speech. He asked where Choi had been. Choi cut him off and explained that he had simply gotten stronger. Huang laughed because this was typical for Choi. Then Choi plainly stated that he was now a constellation. Huang did not believe the claim. Choi asked Huang to attack him to prove his power. Huang threw an S-rank punch. This was a full power punch that could flatten a building. Choi caught the fist with 2 fingers. He did not even shift his stance. Then Choi gently tapped the chest of Huang. Asterisk, asterisk. The S-rank tycoon flew backwards into a wall. Choi did not want to hurt him. He only wanted to prove the truth. Huang slid down the wall while laughing and coughing. Huang pledged himself to Choi on the spot. He was no longer a mentor, but a servant. He was thrilled that his old student was now his god. They formed a plan that Choi would hide his true status. He would enter the United Hunter Championship as a low-rank nobody. He would win his way up to build fame and followers. This fame would eventually convert into cosmic power. He would rebuild the reputation of martial arts. He would also foil the plans of any evil constellations. Huang got to work immediately. He pulled strings to re-register Choi as a B-rank hunter. This made Choi eligible for the better leagues. Huang gave him a family heirloom. The weapon was called the Lunar Heavenly Sword. Huang also assigned a manager to Choi. The manager was his daughter named Ain Lawrence. She was a competent, rank hunter. She did not tolerate any nonsense. She looked at the scruffy man and decided she had to babysit him. Ain had no idea what was about to happen. The preliminaries finally began. Round 1 began. A C-class hopeful named Kobe stepped into the ring across from Choi. Kobe had been training his whole life for this shot. He was confident and prepared. He even had sponsors. The bell rang. Choi threw 1 punch. Kobe landed in the 3rd row of the arena. Round 2 featured a cocky brawler named Ralph. It was the same deal. 1 punch sent Ralph down. Round 3 involved a rising star named Eugene Lee. Experts tipped Eugene for the finals. 1 punch left him sleeping. Round 4 included a veteran named Ro Elise. He had been in the league for a decade. 1 punch ended the fight. The crowd lost control. The commentators screamed. Nobody knew who this man was. He walked in with a C++ card. He demolished top-tier prospects easily. He treated them like training dummies. The internet caught fire. Highlight reels were created instantly. Betting sites collapsed. Choi stayed in the locker room. He quietly ate rice from a lunchbox. Odegan had packed it for him. Choi remained. UMBOTHERED. Constellations watched from the Cosmic Peanut Gallery. A mystery man started defeating the C-rank league on live global broadcasts. His fights carried a familiar rhythm. This martial arts rhythm had not been seen for 30 years. A certain C-class hunter had gone missing then. Smart cosmic beings started putting things together. Offers started rolling in. Alliances and recruitment efforts followed. Some were friendly, but most were not. One constellation took it personally. This was the warrior of madness and blood. He was exactly what his name suggested. The warrior was combat-obsessed and bloodthirsty. He ran a whole domain of orc warriors. He saw Choi dominating the human league. The warrior took this as a personal insult. He hated seeing a no-name human punching kids. He challenged Choi to a formal constellation battle. The battle was domain against domain. Servant fought against servant. The winner would take the fortress of the loser. Choi accepted the challenge immediately. He did not wait for Ain to finish the translation. The battle happened in a cosmic arena. The warrior fielded his champion named Agreta. Agreta was a massive orc. He was the strongest orc in the stable. Agreta had crushed dozens of rival fighters. Choi walked in wearing casual clothes. He wore no armor. A sword hung at his side. Odegan cheered from the sidelines like a proud uncle. Agreta charged forward. Choi did not move at first. He let the orc close the distance. At the last second, the world blurred. Choi used phantom footwork. He was behind Agreta before the punch landed. Choi touched the spine of Agreta with 1 finger. The orc dropped immediately. Agreta was not dead, but he was finished. He was thoroughly and publicly defeated. The warrior of madness and blood was speechless. His fortress and followers were now forfeit. All his cosmic real estate was lost. The fortress of blood transferred to Choi. His rank on the constellation ladder moved up. He climbed to rank 100. A lower number meant a higher status on the ladder. Choi continued his ascent. In the aftermath, a familiar voice reached out to him. It came from the ruins of her own domain. The voice was small and weak. The goddess of balance had survived. She spent 30 years searching for him across dimensions. The search burned her down to almost nothing. However, she finally found him. She reached out with her remaining strength. She offered him one gift, called clairvoyance. This was the ability to see disasters before they happened. He could now save those she could not. The mission she failed to prepare him for could continue. Choi accepted the gift quietly. For the first time, he did not feel alone. A vision hit him almost immediately. He saw Las Vegas in fire and screaming. A dungeon was about to erupt under the strip. Choi was moving before the vision ended. Vegas was in chaos. A dungeon appeared in the middle of the strip. Monsters spilled out into the casinos. Tourists ran for their lives. The local Black Cactus clan arrived. A hunter named Roxanne led the clan. They held the line with everything they had. However, the hunters were steadily losing. The math was against them. A blur cut through their formation. Suddenly, all the monsters were gone. A scruffy guy covered in dungeon dust appeared. He cracked his knuckles and spoke politely. He asked if anyone needed help with the wounded. Roxanne stared at him. She recognized his face from the Ultimate Hunter Championship broadcasts. She tried to call him a hero. Choi disagreed with the title. He stated that he was just passing through. He refused all credit and interviews. He walked out before the news crews arrived. Faith must be earned quietly. Word travels faster when the savior keeps his mouth shut. In the office, Aang was losing her mind. She struggled to manage Choi. She could not brand a client who refused it. However, she realized this was not a normal job. The Ikaros clan was next on the list. This was a team assignment. They were for the Ultimate Hunter Championship group stage. The squad was a messy group of misfits. A proud tank named Elizabeth Gutierrez thought she was the leader. An arrogant ace named Anthony thought he carried everyone. A quiet blade named Smallwood was also there. A healer named Whitaker, moneymaker, only cared about money. A mystery B-rank hunter was dropped among them. The team hated him on principle. Elizabeth challenged him to a spar. She wanted to establish a pecking order. Choi put her on the ground in 4 seconds. Then he helped her up. He corrected her footwork and gave her a training tip. This tip unlocked a skill she had struggled with. Elizabeth stopped being a rival 10 minutes later. Anthony held out longer than the others. Eventually, Choi cooked a team dinner. He used his special adamantium pans. The team ate orc butter fried rice. After one bite, Anthony asked for seconds. He started calling Choi his boss. Whitaker joined the team for better pay. Choi respected his hustle and renegotiated his contract. By the end of camp, they were a real team. They started climbing the tournament bracket. A rumor spread. People said a real martial arts master had returned. A scruffy nobody in the B-League moved like a legend. Exiles emerged from the shadows. Old students of Manhwa appeared. They never believed the fraud stories. These practitioners kept the flame lit for years. They found Choi and pledged themselves to him. Li Shawang commanded the group. He was the man whose fake rank hurt the discipline. He knelt and asked to be taught. He did not ask for forgiveness. Choi looked at him for a long moment. Choi accepted him for strategic reasons. A redeemed fraud could heal the art faster. Li Shahan appeared as a humble disciple. He demonstrated basic forms to the public. Every viewer who mocked martial arts felt differently now. Then came the unending tower. This cosmic dungeon was known for destroying teams. The Akara squad entered. Choi led them through every floor. Odigan stayed in human form and healed the wounded. They picked up a wanderer named Ilya along the way. They cleared the final floor together. Choi used a formation he taught them in the elevator. Global rankings shifted overnight. New York was the next destination. This mission became very strange. They found the sanctum of defeat and laziness. A traitor named Juras ran the dungeon. He served a demon god. The dungeon used a curse of laziness. Everyone who entered felt their willpower drain away. Heroes decided to lie down and give up. It was a brutal and soft attack. Choi felt the hit too. He shattered the restraint with pure will. He kept walking forward. Choi caught the traitor mid-scheme. He used his chair fist technique. Odigan took down the puppet of the demon god. Another voice reached out from the rubble. This was the goddess of defeat and laziness. She was not evil. She was just very old and tired. The goddess named Choi as her successor. She gave him her authority and wisdom. She said victory and defeat were the same. Training and laziness were two sides of one coin. Something in Choi clicked. For 10,000 years, he only pushed forward. Now he had a counterweight. He could finally stand still. He walked out with a new authority in his soul. This led him to a dinner. A billionaire named Alex Parker had been watching. Alex was the father of Richard Parker. Choi had saved Richard in Nevada. Alex treated his own son like a failed investment. He had even ordered a kidnapping. Alex used it as a corporate power play. He owned a research corporation called Fable. They held a researcher named Ronald Totten. They also held a spy. Choi received a rescue mission from Nuan Bo. Nuan was the president of Dragon Artifact. Choi went to rescue the hostages from Fable. An ambush occurred during the rescue. Servants of the Master of Twisted Delusions attacked. Choi created a new technique called the six-person sword formation. He drove the servants away. He saved the hostages. Choi gained a new authority called Red Hallucination. Alex Parker invited Choi to a dinner. They met at a fancy restaurant. Alex made a pitch to buy him. He wanted exclusive rights to Choi and his martial arts. Alex named a very large number for the contract. Choi smiled and played along. He ate the food. Choi let Alex think he was winning. At the end, Choi thanked him for the meal. He stood up and walked out without signing. Alex realized he had been played. Choi owned the concept of not wanting. On his way out, Choi saw a masked figure. This was Jerry Cooper. Jerry was a dangerous and slippery servant. The traitor that holds a poison dagger watched him. This led to the next constellation battle. The gimmick of the traitor was turning people. He challenged Choi. They had a contest to see who could make more traitors. Choi did not play clean. He reached Jerry Cooper first. He offered Jerry an actual future. Choi flipped Jerry before the battle began. The traitor proudly presented Jerry as his ace. Choi calmly pointed out that Jerry was already his. The strategy of the traitor collapsed. Choi won the battle. He took the storage box of faded relics. His constellation rank moved up to 100. He went to the Fortress of Blood. The fortress was now a peaceful farmland. Odegon and a happy orc population ran the land. Choi opened the storage box. He found a holy necklace inside. The arrogant elf of light once wore it. Choi used the constellation store and some soul stones. He gained a golem sidekick. It was the Heavenly Pagoda Guardian King. Finally, Choi did something that changed the whole game. He uploads the real martial arts to the internet for free. He provides full lessons, including basic forms and breathing techniques. These are the fundamentals of the divine celestial technique. There is no paywall and no school. People are invited to take the knowledge and spread it. The views explode across the globe. Millions of people start practicing martial arts again. Every practitioner becomes a trickle of faith flowing back to him. The discipline resurrects overnight. Li Shuan publicly and humbly endorses the lessons as the real deal. The humiliation of his enemies is now complete. Martial arts has returned to the world. The Ultimate Hunter Championship. Finals feature a servant of the arrogant elf of light. This haughty elf is named Christopher Winter. Choi beats the elf cleanly in the arena. Through this victory, Choi earns an authority called Dignity of Light. The elf constellation is furious at the result. However, the audience is absolutely delighted. In the middle of these events, Korea calls for him. There is an international friendly sparring match, scheduled soon. The match is between the American League and the Korean League. Choi is now the face of the American League. However, he was born into the Korean League. Everyone tells him not to go. Li Chang is an old guard hunter known as the Iron Blood Ice Emperor. Li Chang pulls Choi aside and warns him. He tells Choi that Korea has ghosts for him. He advises Choi not to go home, but Choi decides to go anyway. He needs to see the monument. He visits the memorial for the 2011 invasion. The wall lists the names of hunters who died while he was stranded. These hunters held the line while he was in the abyss. He walks the entire length of the wall and reads every name. Odegon stays a respectful distance behind him in human form. Choi does not cry because he rarely shows such emotion. He stands there for a very long time. When he finally turns to leave, his resolve has settled. He knows he was late to help. However, he is here now. The next invasion will not catch him 30 years behind. The friendly spar takes place on Jeju Island. The location features beautiful sun, the ocean, and large crowds. He meets a local hunter named Lee Chung-guch. Choi cooks special rice for the entire preparation team. This meal actually improves the physical statistics of the team. The whole event feels like a warm holiday. Everyone is laughing and enjoying the atmosphere. Ain is finally relaxing for once. Odigen is busy charming the local people. This is the happiest Choi has looked since his return. Suddenly, his clairvoyance ability kicks in. He receives a hard and fast vision of the Jeju International Airport. He sees waves the size of skyscrapers. A shadow exists under the water that is larger than any monster. 9 coils of scale and horn break the surface. A sea dragon named Argo is rising from a nearby sea dungeon. A storm system is rolling in overhead. This means every hunter response team on the mainland is grounded. No reinforcements or S-rank hunters can fly in. Only the vacationers remain on the beach. A dragon the size of a mountain is about to attack civilians. Choi opens his eyes. Ain sees his face and knows the holiday is over. Odegon is already reaching for a weapon. Across the ocean, Hwang receives a live alert through a soul link. He stands up so fast that his chair falls over. The map on his wall lights up red for the Jeju region. He screams into a communication device to find help. Every response is the same. The storm is too thick for travel. Nothing is flying or sailing. His voice cracks on the last order. His student and friend is standing on that beach alone. Choi looks out at the water. The horizon is already dark. The first massive wave is already forming. Somewhere under the sea, Argo is smiling. Choi rolls his neck and adjusts the lunar heavenly sword at his hip. He cracks his knuckles. These are the fists that killed the Hydra Viragos. These hands defeated every C-rank opponent who underestimated him. He smiles at the challenge. After 10,000 years of hell, a dragon on his first vacation is appropriate.